Well, I'm guessing you want to know how we're going to do this. How we're going to turn this piece of garden string into a presentable looking model tree. Hello everyone, I'm Lee from L&R Models and welcome to the channel. Stick around and we'll find out.
So this is a piece of garden twine, the kind that's made of multiple strands, and this is what we're going to try and turn into a tree. The first thing we need to do is plan what it's going to look like. This is a 1/76 scale figure and we'll use him to scale the tree up. I'm just doing it completely by eye, and this looks about tall enough for a reasonable sized tree. Once we've got the height, we can draw in some branches and work out the rough shape, and it's looking like about 8 or 9 branches tall. Now we need to get the string and cut 2 lengths for the trunk and set them to one side. Next we're looking at the branches, and we'll want thinner pieces for this, so we can take the twine and separate it out into the smaller thicknesses. One is slightly thicker than the other, so we'll put that to one side and concentrate on the thinner piece. We're going to need a few lengths like this of decreasing branch lengths, and about 6 or 7 per layer, as it were. So I'll cut a few pieces, like so. And we're going to need a lot of these, so we'll just time lapse here, and I really wish I was as fast as this in real time. Now I've put these piles in size order, but this went out of the window later, but it's the thought that counts, right? Once we've got enough lengths, it's time to make a strengthening potion. This is to smear over the string to make it more stiff and resilient. The magic recipe for this is an equal-ish amount of brown acrylic paint, PVA glue and some plaster of Paris. We're going to mix it all together until we've got a smooth paste. Now it's nearly time to get messy, so I've put on some latex gloves because we're going to get properly hands-on. We'll put the rough paper template back onto the cutting mat and cover it with an acetate sheet to protect it. First, the trunk, and we're going to glue the bottom pieces together with some superglue and then twist together. Next, we're going to smear some of this paste along the trunk and using fingers, work it into the string, twisting and smearing. We'll lay that down in position and then move on to the branches. This is where it gets properly messy, and those neatly organised piles of branches got mixed up. We're going to take that paste and work it into those branch lengths until we've got a nice pile of usable pieces. I'm not going to lie, it's an absolute mess and very sticky. I actually filmed this as a live stream and I'm not going to lie, it looked pretty disgusting, but trust the process. The paste actually dries pretty quickly, but I speeded it up a little with the use of a hairdryer, and once we've got a nice pile of branches we can start sticking them to the trunk of the tree. This has actually stiffened up quite well at this point. Now this paste is dual purpose. It both stiffens the string and provides an added texture. Using the rough template, we can start by taking some of the longer pieces and gluing them to the bottom of the trunk. Using superglue with an activator spray makes really quick work of fixing the branches in place, and we can quickly get an initial frame in place, with the sending branches getting shorter as we go up. Once a roughly symmetrical shape is in place, this can then be gently teased off the acetate sheet and laid back onto the cutting mat. With a pair of scissors we can then shape the branches a little better, tapering upwards. At this point, I put the tree onto one side and left it overnight. Then, propping up the emerging tree into a piece of foam, start adding branches onto the opposite side. It's really starting to look tree-like now. Realising that it shouldn't have been so uniform and cruciform in shape, I chopped off some of the branches and started adding some in a bit more of a random fashion. These had now solidified much better, and some needed twisting to make it a little smaller to stick on the top of the tree. Once we've got a pleasing skeleton of branches, we can now take some small pieces of string, fanning them out slightly, and stick those pieces to the very ends of our branches to simulate smaller branches. Keep working all the way until we've got the whole tree covered. At this point, I decided it needed an overall covering of undercoat, so I took it into the garage and gave it a blast of brown aerosol paint I had lying around. Once dry, it was time to bring back to the table and work on the pine needles. For this, we take a piece of twine, untwist it, and then snip with a pair of scissors very fine pieces, about 1mm long, until we've got a nice little pile of snippings. Now again, this took a very long time to do, but it's worth persevering with. Next, we need to sieve those pieces to separate the fine fibres, and I'm using this old bulb cover from a spider tank. You just need a very fine mesh. Once sieved, we've got a nice little pile of fibres, and we can put these back in the pot. The next stage involves coating the tree with a mist of spray varnish, and I've taken the tree into the spray booth here. And then using a static grass applicator, gently shake those string fibres onto the branches. Any bare patches can be covered up by sprinkling some fibres on by hand. Once dry, it now just needs a little trim to get rid of some of those loose fibres and a bit of a reshape with a pair of scissors. And now all that's left to do is place our finished tree onto a pre-made little base to show it off.
In the comments. Personally, I think it makes a great little tree and a fun little project to spend over a few evenings. I've made this out of just a few bits and pieces that I've had lying around. I obviously had the items to hand. With a little playing around, like making more branches, like making plenty of trunk pieces, you can make a number of trees pretty effectively and quickly. Maybe in another video I'll try with a stronger looking trunk, like maybe using cocktail sticks or bamboo sticks, but I'm really pleased with the way the branches have come out. So if you've enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, subscribe to see more creative modelling content, and hit the notification button so you can be sure you never miss out on another video. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you all again soon.